Hey guys, I'm JanetOnOccasion, and today we're playing another Total War Warhammer II Battle Replay. This one was sent in by Valnir, and he's been hating all the positive press that Storm Vermin have been getting lately. He doesn't rate them. He hates Storm Vermin. He thinks they suck. And, dude, there's got to be something for said for, to bring something armoured, for a faction that doesn't really have any armour, right? It always catches people unawares. I think it's great. But anyway, he disagrees. No, he thinks Censer bearers is the way to go. And Censer bearers, I've often said, I really wish they were more survivable, right? They just don't seem to perform as well as I feel they should. Because they don't tend to get a lot of killing done, because they can get killed by pretty much anything. You really want them on the most elite stuff to get that good armor piercing in and do all the work. Because if they're fighting just even cheap things like, state troops, just swordsmen, they're not going to get value because they're going to take too much damage from very cheap means. Even just standard archers can melt these guys really quickly because they're low armor. So they have a lot of weaknesses. But by bringing 3 of them, you've got to prioritize, right? You spread out the damage between all of them, they're all going to get into the combat, early. So going all in with something like that I think is great. The reason why they're super shite in most games and just are a total waste of money is because there's only one. So they just get killed. So the other player doesn't have to worry about it. It's like, oh, I'll just wipe them out. They're a soft target. When you've got 3, though, it's very difficult to wipe out all of them at once, you see? So anyway, he's got 3 of these. And also, Lord Skrolk is in charge. So, well, yeah, he would be in charge of all the Censer bearers, wouldn't he? There's also some clan rats. He's got some gutter runners as well. Nice to have that harass. And he has a doom wheel. Love to see a doom wheel. Love it already. And also, a couple of rat ogres. And finally, he has 2 assassins. Now, this is clever. Right, because like I said, Plague Monk Censer bearers, they'll just die to anything, they suck. But Rival Hide Talisman is huge. So if we look at the Assassin quickly, right, Rival Hide Talisman, minus 44 melee attack for 31 seconds in a 40 meter range. So 2 of them, and all 4 of these Plague Monk Censer bearers are going to be fighting things with probably 0 melee attack. So they don't have to worry about it. So that crazy glass cannon thing, that they've got going for them, they can do huge damage. But they take a load. Suddenly they're not going to be taking a load, they're just going to be dishing it out, which is awesome. So the Assassin's great accompaniment here. I absolutely love to see that. Now his opponent has got a pretty typical army. I think he might have actually been expecting a lot of Storm Vermin by the looks of it. He's got a lot of white lines. They do have a lot of armor, and to be fair, a lot of units, things like Plague Monks and even just Clan Rats, they kind of struggle against armor. So the white lines are a nice they fill all the roles you want, really, right? They've got the armor, so they can shrug off damage from a lot of the infantry, but they also have the armor piercing in case they are fighting something armored themselves. So they do fill the roles rather well. There's also some Loathe and Sea Guard. These guys obviously will be great against things like the Censer bearers, and in, short range, in melee, should I say, they hold out pretty well. They hold out pretty well, so the summons aren't going to immediately take them offline, like they would just standard archers. Clan Rats get summoned on top of archers, the archers will really pay. Loathe and Sea Guard can hold out a bit more. They have a lot better melee defense. Also, a couple of spearmen in the front, on the edges. So, of course, gutter runners and things, which is usual. They can soak up some of the arrow, shuriken fire, I suppose, with those shields of theirs. Also, equal bolt throwers. There's a couple of them. These guys can be very good for taking things out like the plague furnaces and stuff like that, Very nice to have something that can probe those things. But also, they can do some good damage to rat ogres that are fairly big targets. They can do some good damage to things like a hell pit abomination that you often see in this matchup. And they can do some good damage against, what's he called? The Doom Wheel, which is very handy. So they're not bad, but they will melt if they're caught out very quickly. He also has a noble on a horse for anti-large, and he has a noble on a chariot for the anti-infantry. So nice to see 2 nobles, but used for different roles. I think that's interesting. Usually, if you see 2 nobles, they have the same job. Also, Alariel. Of course, Alariel. She's on a horse, which is fine. You don't really need to be on an eagle. You're just asking to be Howling Warpgale if you're an eagle. On a horse, she can still outrun everything, but she can still do all the things she normally does for cheaper. So, Star of Avalorn, Arcane Conduit, Arcane Unforging. Brilliant if they're Skrolk, because you do a lot of damage to him and stop him using Lee Bubonicus on you. Also, Earthblood, and she's actually brought a banishment as well, which I think is very fun. Very fun indeed. Oh, and I think she has that item to give her all magic damage. No, physical resist, and yeah, magic damage, immune psychology. So no terror for stuff near her, and they're going to have magic damage, negating physical resist on things such as Plague Monk Censer bearers. So, speeding things up. So a lot of archer fire, and you can see the Doom Wheel is just soaking it up, which is perfect. I mean, yeah, Doom Wheel's going to really hurt, and that's awful. But again, it's allowing the Plague Monk Censer bearers to come in unaccosted, which is very good. It's also allowing the rat ogres to come in unaccosted. You know, this has been seen as the biggest threat because there's no cavalry here. I mean, the noble would be able to knacker him pretty quickly, and oof, yeah, and the bolt throws have done a fine job. Oof, that's painful. But yeah, I mean, is that the priority? Is it really? Maybe. It's nice to get rid of it early, but I think the noble could knacker him pretty well, so you're better off focusing on the softer targets that are still going to mess you up. Things like the rat ogres are very, very painful to deal with. So yeah, they're getting some work done. Nobles, they've run into the middle, try and deal with Skrulk. And he's using, stand your ground to keep defenses up. So unfortunately, where are the assassins? Where have they gone? There's one over here. Yep, so he's used the Rival Hide Talisman. These guys are all on 0 melee attack, which is pretty great. But these Plague Monk Censer Bearers are actually further back, dealing with the Spearmen, and those got hit, but it didn't matter because they're not fighting anybody. But they should be. So, way more Bolt Thrower action coming in here, doing some work. But these Spearmen are getting completely knackered by the Plague Monk Censer Bearers, because they are anti-large. So, you know, it's not like usual cheap troops like, swordsmen or something, or bleak swords or whatever. No, they're more defensive, but you can see they are doing some damage even then to the Plague Monk Censer Bearers that are very flimsy, so that's a real pity. But I think in this matchup, it does help because Spearmen are 500, which is quite expensive for the cheapest unit. So again, points in the Censer Bearers' favour, certainly in this matchup. Over here you can see Alariel has come in, try and finish off the Doom Wheel, but she might get surrounded by these Plague Monks if she's not if she's unlucky. Skrulk has taken quite a bit of damage. The Assassin still running through this stuff, and you can see the Noble has had Trophy Heads used on him. So with that 8 melee attack, he's not going to do half as much damage to all of the infantry here. So Plague Monks have run in 57 kills so far. A lot of that is White Lions, but still they are suffering a lot. These ones have just cleaved through that entire line, which is pretty great. Doom Wheel, been chased off again. Hasn't got much done, but it's been a wonderful distraction. Censer Bearers surrounding Alariel there. And here the Gutter Runners are just chewing through all these bolt throws in the back line. You know, they can eat up the crew and move to the next one before anything can really catch up to them. So here you can see the Noble still running around trying to do some work. Assassin chasing him down, and he does not want to get caught out by the Assassin. The Assassin's pretty good at dealing with things like the Noble. One-on-one, I mean, I'd say the Noble's a better combatant, but still, you've got a lot of other things to do, like fight this other Assassin. There's a lot going on. So Plague Monk Censer Bearers still trying to chop through these guys, but they're taking a lot of damage. Here you can see a Earthblood had been used on the Elves in this remaining pocket. Plague Monks had been summoned as well, and it's a bit of a mosh pit now. It's a bit of a mosh pit. You can see the Rat Ogres are following up, but there are no Spearmen left in here apart from the Loathen Seaguard. So this is pretty great for the Rat Ogres to run in this way and hit all these armoured targets. So they're having a whale of a time in here. The Assassin's doing some good work. Alariel's charged in here to do what she can. And more units are getting summoned constantly. And the Gutter Runners, they're just chasing off all the artillery crews. So all the artillery has been wiped out. The Doom Wheel, I think, did get destroyed maybe, or shattered. Some units spare, but I don't think it really needs them just yet. You can see all this stuff is starting to shatter or get routed. Army losses is hitting, and that is a close victory. So here, yeah, Valnir, Censer Bearers are good. But I feel they have different roles to Storm Vermin. I feel they have very different roles. And that's it, really. They're not armoured. They're still fragile. You know, they still took a lot of damage, and they weren't being prioritised, right? If they were prioritised, they'd get wiped out a lot quicker. You were lucky that they weren't, you know. The Doom Wheel, sure, great distraction, but a very expensive one. So you could argue, oh yeah, as long as you have the Censer Bearers with something like a Doom Wheel that can, you know, attract a lot of the shots, then they're going to get in and do well. But yeah, but you've lost a Doom Wheel there as well, you know, which is very expensive. So suddenly you've spent like 6k on all this stuff. Alright, maybe 5k. It's horribly expensive to do all that. So that's where I think it's still iffy using something like the Plague Monk Censer Bearers. But here they did a fine job, and I think it just helps that High Elves tend to be more elite, generally. And that's where Plague Monk Censer Bearers shine. So if it's a more cavalry-focused army, or the amount of times I've just had like Techless and a ton of Shadow Warriors and then Dragon Princes, and that is it. The amount of times I've had to face that, and that kind of thing is just going to melt this so quickly. Plague Monk Censer Bearers can't deal with that kind of thing. Whereas Storm Vermin, they can absorb a load of ammunition before they go down, and thanks to the fact that High Elves don't have a lot of armor piercing, Storm Vermin can still shrug that off. They aren't necessarily going to kill a lot, but they're going to weather the storm a lot better than something like the Plague Monk Censer Bearers. So I love the directness of this, and I think Censer Bearers are good, but they're still very niche. They're still very niche. But here, they did perform a wonderful job of cutting through that front line very effectively. And this High Elf army here, I've got to say, this is a really interesting take. I really liked this. I thought it was really cool. I think bolt throwers, kind of good insurance against a lot of things. Having 3 of them, you can shut down stuff very, very fast. But also, it's a lot of expense in the back line for something very immobile, and that can often be very difficult against Skaven. So, you know, the White Lions, expecting them to hold, sure, but it's a bit tough, isn't it? It's a bit tough. I think partly is the fact the Censer Bearers have the armor piercing. They were able to crush this stuff very, very fast. You know, I think that's where it really helped. But otherwise, I think this build could actually work pretty well. I think it's an interesting take. There's a lot of very threatening things that the bolt throwers can get rid of, and the mixture of nobles, it means you get a lot of work done between these two. Alarielle with all the healing, it's very useful, you know, some ranged, but can protect itself a bit if need be, and of course the spearmen are very good at holding fast, but not against something super ultra elite, such as Censer Bearers. But yeah, I liked it. I like this a lot. I like both of these builds, but this is definitely a very good counter to what the High Elves had here. And I love the synergy. You know, the Assassins lowering melee attack, that cuts half of the risk that the Plague Monk Censer Bearers have, you know, being killed by inferior units. They can't hit anything if they have minus 44 melee attack, and because these guys will kill very quickly, they will cut through that line very fast, and the unit will be broken by the time Rival Hide Talisman's worn off. So that's great. I love that. I love the synergy here. But you have to build an army around the fact you have Censer Bearers, which, again, is a bit iffy. But then I suppose you've got to do that with Storm Vermin anyway. But basically what I'm getting is they're both viable. I just think Censer Bearers are niche. Yeah. I'd love to hear people's thoughts on that, though. I'd love to hear people's thoughts, because Censer Bearers are definitely always risky. It's always the case with glass cannon units. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think. And any anecdotal evidence, one way or the other, would be lovely. I'd love to hear that. So anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this, then please do comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good day, guys.